Today we're going to pit 5 recently released ultra compacts against each other, looking at the advantages and disadvantages of each in turn, as well as which conditions or needs might make each a better purchase over the others. So let's jump into it then, beginning with the Bugaboo Butterfly 2, where the main positives are great seat dimensions, with a 52cm backboard plus decent space under the canopy and a 16cm leg rest, a large and accessible shopping basket, and a great feeling chassis that's sturdy with tightly fitted components, has a seamless one-handed fold, and has one of the easiest to use seat adjustment mechanisms that I've encountered for shifting between a more upright than usual upright position and a newborn acceptable recline, in Europe and most of the world at least. Design-wise, the Butterfly 2 feels sleeker and more streamlined than most other options out there, and there's little to criticize with how the model's built, other than a couple of minor negatives, in that the padding is a little on the thin side and the suspension is a bit stiff, though, with decent-sized wheels, 5.5 inches in the front and 6 in the back, it's still capable of tackling uneven pavement, park lawn, and so on, without feeling too uncomfortable. That being said, there's also a peripheral negative to be aware of for some parents, in that the model doesn't have a newborn acceptable recline in all regions, such as North America, and while a soft bag solution will be released soon, it's still unclear whether this will be available for the North American version. And I'd also note that in my opinion, soft bag setups that attach inside the seat feel a bit messier than a proper bassinet. Nonetheless, these factors aside, the Butterfly 2 is still an awesome model, being sleeker and more micro-tailored towards ease of use than most other options on the current market. Next up is the Joolz Aer2, whose chassis feels nearly identical to the Butterfly's, both in terms of sturdiness as well as how it is to fold and unfold, but which has more noticeable suspension that makes it easier to drive over rough ground. On top of this, the Aer2 has an equally accessible shopping basket, a similarly upright position and newborn acceptable recline, including in North America, seat dimensions that are nearly the same as the Butterfly's, being a little wider but also a smidge shorter with regards to the depth of the baseboard, and having a better newborn setup as well, in a bassinet available for extra purchase that's both overnight approved and can flatten and fold down with the chassis so that the whole package can be carried by the shoulder strap. Padding on the Aer2 seat is a little thicker, and there's more ventilation than with the Butterfly, though that being said, in other respects, the Aer2 seat feels messier than the Butterfly's in my opinion, with the process of adjusting the seat's recline being fiddlier, involving both a long zipper as well as a need to unhook a strap, the fabrics bunching up quite a bit when shifting the seat from recline to upright, the process of adjusting the leg rest feeling more clunky, and with the naked backboard, with all of its tape and straps, being visible just by lifting the liner. That noted, if you can live with these negatives, then the Aer2 is arguably a little more functionally useful than the Butterfly, as a result of its better shock absorption in particular, as well as the possibility of using the bassinet. Moving on, we get to the Stokke Yoyo 3, whose biggest positive is that the chassis design is much more mechanically simple than the rest of the strollers in this video, with no internal wires involved in its folding system, and very few internal components altogether, which naturally makes it significantly more durable. Other positives with the Yo-Yo include the fact that it has the smallest fold of our models today, fitting even within the highly restrictive 115cm all-round requirements of some airlines. That its slim folded profile and the positioning of its shoulder strap make it the most comfortable to carry slung from your shoulder. The fact that it's the only model here to have a reverse-facing newborn option that still fits within the IATA's guidelines for cabin luggage in the form of the Zero Plus base, and that it's been around a lot longer than all of these others, and has almost complete cross-compatibility between versions, meaning that there are a ton of useful accessories out there available secondhand. All that being said, there are a few negatives with the model as well, with a bit more effort and 2 hands required when folding the Yo-Yo, somewhat smaller seat dimensions than on these other models, where the seat back is roughly the same length when reclined, 51 centimeters, but only 44 when upright, with a reclined position that isn't newborn compatible as the model comes stock, meaning that you do need to get one of their accessories for this, with no inbuilt leg rest, less ventilation than with these other options, shoulder straps that have to be rethreaded to change elevation, a less accessible shopping basket, and shock absorption that's even stiffer than the Butterfly's. These factors noted, however, the Yo-Yo is a little cheaper than the models we've covered so far, by around $50 or so depending on where you live, and for those parents most interested in maximizing durability, it's my top choice. Pushing forwards, we get to the Metro 3, where the biggest advantage versus these other models is that it's cheaper by as much as $200, with the rain cover included, while still feeling equally as premium, at least with regards to its textiles and seat features. Additional positives with the Metro 3 include that it auto-folds, that it's also decently sturdy in its overall build, despite being the most internally complex of these models, that its seat dimensions rival the Butterfly 2 and Aer 2 with regards to length, and where it also has the longest leg rest here at 19 centimeters. That its huge mesh window when the seat is reclined makes it the best for ventilation, and that it also has both a newborn acceptable recline with an inbuilt newborn apron, including in North America, as well as a comparably upright position. On the negative side, the pull strap takes quite a lot of finger strength to pull the seat all the way up when shifting the position of the seat. The shopping basket is a little less accessible than with the Butterfly or Aer, though it's better than the Yo-Yos. Unfolding can be a bit fiddly, and for most people will require two hands. And that, despite having good-sized wheels, 5.5 inches in the front and 6.7 in the back, suspension is as stiff as the Yo-Yos, making it similarly a bit jittery when the going gets rough. I'd also note that while that inbuilt newborn setup is a positive from a budget perspective, it would have been nice if a bassinet were also available for the model for parents willing to splurge. All that being said, if you're shopping on a budget, there are few models within the Metro 3's lower price class that will feel as premium. Here I'd note that Ergobaby has a deluxe version available as well, and while it might be worth considering if you need the added accessories that come with it, my general feeling from what I've seen so far is that the basic version is a better deal, though we will be putting out a video on it soon that will go into more detail. And last up today then is the UppaBaby Minu V3, which is for you to tell me about in the comments, as, despite already having been released in the US and some of Europe for several months, it's still not available here in Scandinavia, and feedback so far from patrons who've seen it has been mixed, with several people applauding its sturdy feel, but there having also been a variety of complaints as well, including that shock absorption doesn't feel as good as on the previous version, that it's difficult to fold, that the seat isn't quite upright enough, and that the front wheels are loose, which makes them noisy when going over uneven pavement. So if you've seen the model, please leave a comment here, both for us as well as other parents looking to get some more impartial information about the model, especially in terms of how it might compare to these other recently released Ultra Compacts and whether you feel it lives up to its price tag. In any case, we hope you found this video interesting, and if you did, we ask that you subscribe, as it helps us to continue making videos in the future. If you'd like to know more about any of these models, we have standalone reviews for all of them, other than the Minu V3 of course, that go into a lot more detail, and links have been added in the description. In addition, if you're currently shopping for a stroller, we have a buyer's guide on our Patreon page, which lists a wide range of models that we recommend, with a lot of technical and lifestyle related information. You can find that by following the link in the description as well. Thank you.